Well, Ken, here we are on January 2nd, I guess it is. It's January 2nd, and 2021.
Yeah,
and it feels like March 2nd, 2021.
Yeah,
3 above zero when we got up this morning. And, welcome back to the Garden Show. This is Don Burnett, Ken Salvail here on our first garden show of the year. We took a week off. How was your Christmas, Ken?
Everything was good, yeah, for sure. And Happy New Year to you and everybody who's listening in. It's been pretty good, pretty low key. You know, still getting some things done, but not too crazy. That's for sure.
It hasn't been too crazy, that's for sure. Very different in many respects, and in some ways a little settling. Kind of just okay. This is very nice. We didn't have the frenzy that often happens at Christmas time, and we were very pensive. Thought about things, thought about life, thought about what was ahead of us, thought about what was behind us. But here we are, going into a new gardening year, and last year there were a lot of new gardeners introduced to gardening, partly because of the pandemic. And so this will be their second year of gardening, and they're probably learned a lot the first year, as we all do every year. We learn something, and I think it's going to be an exciting year for folks, especially those new gardeners that had a little experience getting their fingers dirty last spring and last summer, jumping into it again this year. So
yeah, you betcha. All righty.
250-862-2525 to join Ken and I today on this beautiful Saturday morning that 3 above zero in the first part of January. And actually the 14-day forecast looks pretty mild as we look forward to. So
it sure does, yeah.
Let's get through January, then February could hit us hard, but let's get through February and then we're into March. Today is a little bit longer than it was before Christmas. The day is advancing. We're only, it's 8 hours and 13 minutes long, 5 minutes longer than the shortest day. So we're only 5 minutes longer today. But as the days progress, and you know that old feeling, Ken, that we used to have in the greenhouses, I'm getting now with my little greenhouse, watching the plants jump when the days get longer. And
when you actually get some sun. Which is one of those things that is, it's missing, I'd say, around here for the last probably 2 or 3 weeks. It's been pretty socked in. We had a little bit of sun here and there, but nothing to write home about, that's for sure. And the plants sure appreciate it when the sun shines, that's for sure. That's
the key thing, is sunlight, isn't it? For plants, they've got to have the light.
And for our indoor plants particularly, at this time of year, for sure.
Here's the exciting news. I'm eating tomatoes out of my greenhouse.
Yeah, that's amazing. Congratulations. That's what we were talking about before Christmas. There was how your crop was going to make it for the big Christmas break.
Well, I was hoping I could make Christmas because having ripe tomatoes in the greenhouse at Christmas time, to me was the goal. Now, as new gardeners learn, I'm learning as well with the greenhouse because it's a smaller greenhouse. It's a different type of growing conditions than we had in the big greenhouses. And so next year it's even going to be better. Now, what I'm going to do is, I planted cobra, and they're about for 25 seeds, they're about $19, $18. Comete is about $45 for 25 seeds, and sometimes, paying a little bit more, it might be a good idea. And so I'm going to try the Comete as well this spring in the greenhouse. The reason being is that when I'm getting these tomatoes from the grocery stores right now, from the growers, these are greenhouse grown tomatoes, right?
Yep.
Howlings and some others are growing them in the winter. They get the truss come in, and every tomato is the same size on the truss. And they all ripen at the same time, so they sell it as a truss. They cut the whole truss off and sell that as a unit.
Yeah,
mine, I couldn't do that. Mine have one big one, one slightly smaller. So they came on in stages, and the big one ripens first, and so I got to pick them individually, right? So I'm thinking that maybe the Comete might come on and ripen all at once.
That's got to be that determinant-indeterminate factor, right? I would imagine that the ones that are indeterminate are going to ripen randomly, and they're just going to continuously grow. And because I've noticed it even sometimes right on the tip of the truss, you'll even get a new bloom that opens quite late, and then that thing can be pollinated and continue to produce fruit. So I'd assume that's what that is. But that's something we can maybe confirm between
Yeah,
now and then.
I want to check things out. Like I say, I'm learning, and I want to get so that I've got cucumbers and tomatoes coming out of that greenhouse in the wintertime. I'm really going to work hard at it. And I've reached my first goal, a ripe tomato at Christmas time.
Yep.
A few ripe tomatoes. And we've got more coming on. And I'm going to plant some more for the spring, get the spring crop going. I'm going to plant my onions. I got my my Elsa Craig onions that I'm going to be putting in fairly soon now.
Yeah.
Probably today. Onions go in. So I guess we should do the tips and plants of the week because we haven't done it yet, Ken.
Well, it's our first kick at it this year, so we might as well get back on track, get back doing things we normally do.
The longest preamble that we've done, isn't it?
It is, for sure.
Tips and plants of the week.
All right.
Okay, my tip is, and this is what triggered it, if you're really into it, plant some onion seeds, snapdragons, pansies, and seed geraniums now. If you're not into it, just wait till the greenery opens in April.
Yep.
My plant of the week is the Euphorbia millii, the crown of thorns. The crown of thorns is an amazing plant, easy to grow, and this baby has not stopped blooming for a whole entire year. So
yeah, that's an amazing plant. It's beautiful. We have that one on the video, so we'll talk about that as well.
Yes, we're going to talk about that.
Yep. All right, I also have a tip and a plant, and my tip of the week this week is that it's more of a challenge for 2021, is to, if you're into horticulture and you're into learning about plants, you should try to learn at least one botanical plant name every month. So that's not an overwhelming amount of stuff to learn, but it's something that you can learn, and you sort of have to memorize it, the way that they're said and the way that they're spelled as well. So writing them out is sometimes a good thing to do. All right, now my plant of the week this week is 2021 perennial plant of the year, which is a plant that's sort of familiar, but it's actually a little bit, I wouldn't say it's new, but it's called Calamantha Nepeta. It's a subspecies Nepeta, and the Calamantha group includes many of the Nepeta families and whatnot, but it's just one of these really strong blooming plants. It's considered to be really good. The Perennial Plant Association always recommends a really good one every year, and they have to be undemanding and dependable, and that's exactly what this plant is. It's a cloud of beautiful tiny white flowers, and it literally blooms from early summer all the way through until frost. So it's a long-blooming, drought-tolerant, and easy to grow. So there you go. That's my tips and plants for this week. Remember to check growercoach.com.
And speaking of Grower Coach, Ken, we are excited to talk about some of the things that you're doing online. I was very impressed. I went to your website and whatnot, and you're doing a great job, and I'm proud of you, man. Really.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very good. We'll talk a little bit about that, and we're also going to just give you the heads up, folks out there, that Dan Bruce is going to be coming on a fairly regular basis in the next few weeks, talking about Scottish botanists. Mm-hmm. And he's done some research, done some studying, and of course he's known a lot about them over the years anyway. And he's got a display at Fentry on Scottish botanists.
Oh, nice.
So we're going to talk about that, and then when things open up and we're able to get out to Fentry again, you can go out and sort of this gives you a preamble or something of what's going on out there. Yeah. So I believe this morning we're going to be introducing a gentleman named Douglas.
Oh, yeah.
This is a botanist that came around. Well, Dan's going to talk all about that, so that's what we're going to be doing.
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah.
All right, okay. Well, I guess we should take our first break, so we'll do that, and we'll be back right after these messages with more AM 1150 Garden Show.
We are back with you on the AM 1150 Garden Show, and it is a show number 1778 total. 1,105 sitting in these chairs here, Ken, in this station, and but total since 1983 of 1,778 shows every Saturday morning, and I never tire of it. I always enjoy coming in, and especially now that we're doing this together the past couple of decades. It's been pretty cool, very cool, and we come up with lots of interesting things, and so do the listeners. When they phone in, we appreciate that because they give us lots of ideas, and they share their ideas as well as if they have any gardening questions and concerns, we're here to answer those as well. Ken, I looked at a few things on your website, and you're doing a great job. So give us an idea of what
yeah.
people can expect, how they get to see some of this stuff, and what's going on.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, and yeah, it's something that takes a long time. I have a little bit of help, with my office staff, but we all try to do as much as we can. But we also have a busy business as well that we're dealing with, so it kind of goes a bit slow. I wish we could work on it full time, but it's always a bit of a struggle, as it is with everybody. Anybody who has a website knows how much work it can be, but. Yeah, we just continuously try to keep up, starting in this time of year. January is our kickoff, and we try to kick the year off as strong as we can with consistency with our blog. And we changed over our podcast, turning it into more of a vodcast, so that's more of a video podcast. And that's Grower Coach Garden Show, which we do, and it's involving all kinds of similar to what this show is, except it's we do these visits like to your greenhouse and whatnot, and it's really quite a fun little show, and we're still learning, and it's really it's growing like everything. But we do take email questions as well, and we answer those questions. And we always look for something that's unique and something that's also happening in everybody's homes. Like in the wintertime, we have a lot of houseplant issues. And as we get into spring, we're going to be talking a lot more about vegetable production, that sort of thing, and be working right in my own garden. So we'll be getting that garden up and going and having weekly updates on that. So it'll be a fun event right through until harvest. And so it'll be a lot to do, and we're going to do our best to keep up with it. But yeah, it's a pretty fun event. And then we're also starting our teaching program, so that's coming up here in January, where we already have our classes up on the website. If you go to our webinar section under the Learning tab, and you can go through that and look at the different classes we have coming up. And so those classes are generally pretty well attended. We have a lot of landscape companies that participate, and we're hooking up with a new company out of Ottawa, actually, that supports gardeners and people who teach online and webinars, that sort of thing. So they're called the gardeningcalendar.ca. That's a website, and so we're going to get our classes up on there as well, so that people, hopefully across Canada, can tune into those webinars. And then with that, we also will be working on the Teachable platform, and we're putting in our full length. They're much longer seminars, and they're conglomerations of different teaching opportunities where those are video rather than live. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it's exciting, and there's lots to do. So there's no dull moments, that's for sure.
So how can a person just access this without too much trouble?
Well, it's super easy, really. Yeah, just have to go to our website. So you go to the growercoach.com, and again, you can look under the radio shows. We do have some of these radio shows that we'll be putting up as well. So we're slowly getting those edited a little bit and have those online for people to listen to. Mm-hmm. And then under that same category, radio shows, podcasts, and blog, those are all right there. And then, of course, on the far side of the top is just finding that learning button and hitting that if you're interested in participating in some Zoom seminars.
So people can go to growercoach.com and search around and have some fun. Do a little bit of wandering around Ken's website. That's very good.
Yeah, you betcha.
Very cool.
And then, like I was saying, YouTube is one of our best ways of just following. So if people dislike the gardening theme, then you can just go to YouTube and you can sign up to Grower Coach on YouTube. And super easy. You can just click on that and subscribe, and you'll get all of our videos in one lump, which is right now we have about 180 videos, somewhere in that range. But we're going to be adding them, like I said, every week, or probably even up to twice a week for a period of time here.
Very nice. Very good. 250-862-2525 if you want to come in and enjoy this or join our show today. This is the AM 1150 Garden Show. Ken Salvail and Don Burnett here to help you with your questions. And we're going into a new year. We've got, at this time of year, I really enjoy, thinking about what's ahead, because when you're in November, October, thinking about what's ahead is more snow, more ice, more cold, more, Now we've got, there's some light at the end of the tunnel. In more ways than one, Ken, because we've tried to keep this a COVID-free garden show, but unfortunately it was so prevalent this year you couldn't totally ignore it because it was a very, very serious and And, extensive problem. And but now we see some light at the end of the tunnel. And it's just like gardeners going into spring. You're looking forward to spring, and it's going to be better. And certainly things are going to be better this year than they were last year, because as we were kind of ignorant to what was going on last year when we were introducing our first show of the year. We were thinking, oh, here we go. Here we go. Well,
well, and then look at when it was just getting rolling in spring. We really weren't sure if we were going to even be allowed to come into the. Well, we weren't for a while. A period of time.
For a while, only one of us at a time.
Yeah, and so that was a bit of a struggle. And then once we got that out of the way and got back onto track. I think that everything worked out, and we certainly had a lot of callers. We had a lot of new callers this year, so a lot of new gardeners. Or I think there were a lot of new gardeners, but there were also a lot of people who had gardened in the past, and they sort of brought back their excitement and remembered, what it was like to grow, a patch of potatoes or some beautiful tomatoes, and you grow those fresh vegetables. There's just something about it. It's just I think you forget. Like, I don't forget, because all winter I just can't wait to get my teeth into a fresh tomato or something that's got flavor,
Well, come by the greenhouse. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
So another segment I'm thinking of doing this year for folks who email us questions, because we do often get people emailing questions to us, both sides. I'm going to be putting those down. We do have one this morning, as a matter of fact, that I got a couple of days ago, and it's from Mary. And she said, "Hi, Don. Thanks for all the advice on the garden show. I've had a big problem with my kale this year. I had a big bed of kale grown from seed in an accessible spot for a few years. Then I found many white little balls and then frosty under the leaves, and then plants died. Sad. We like to eat it in January after a lot of frost. I now have only 4 plants left. I thought the white balls were due to the white butterflies and were eggs, but never saw any caterpillars. What caused the death of so many plants?" She's been planting this in the same spot for years. There might be something there, right? What do you think, Ken?
Yeah, well, that sounds like the it's like a woolly aphid type of insect, and they form the little blobs of sugar and little fuzzy balls underneath that look quite frosted. The sugar itself grows this white powder over them, and it's very common on those particular plants. A big suggestion for anybody growing cabbage families of any kind, and kale is probably the one major example, is if it's at all possible, use the insect screens. From when you start, the very first moment you get your garden planted. And with kale, you can plant it very early. Like it can be in the cold season. And those cold shoulder seasons is usually when you don't have as many aphid issues or any insect issues, because they're just not mobile yet. But if you can get them started really early and then get that insect screen on them, and that'll just keep the bugs off, keeps the loopers off, keeps the aphids off and everything. I've had the best success ever and especially just on growing cabbage. They're just so huge that you need to almost build a bit of a cage or a shroud, just for your insect screen. But utilizing the right type of insect screen is really important too. I prefer to get the white insect screen. It tends to allow a lot more light through, and you can water straight through it as well. And so I really like that particular product. It's not inexpensive. I think I purchased one that was what was it, about 7 feet wide by about, I think it was 16 feet long, or maybe a bit longer, maybe 18 feet. And that was a $40 piece of fabric. But that was a beautiful thing, and I've had it. I bought several of them, and I've cut them to length to fit my raised beds. And yeah, they're awesome.
But it does last a long time too. It's UV protected.
They're still good.
Doesn't disintegrate after a couple of years, kind of thing.
No, it's been great. And really, it's the first time that I've been able to grow spinach without any of the little leaf miners in them, and onions without any onion maggot, and carrot without carrot rust fly, and it's just. I would say that it's one of those things that as soon as you get used to using those fabrics and covers, life becomes a lot easier. And is it ever nice to, like I say, the spinach, which is one of my favorites, is just so nice to see it grow to fruition, nice and healthy and leafy without any little, trails, the little leaf miners.
Yeah, the leaf miners are very prevalent on spinach. Now, you're managing with the screening everything that we used to use diazinon granules for. So I'm just saying,
Yeah,
which is
in
good.
the day,
Screening at $40 worth of screening is probably a good investment because you used to spend quite a bit of money on diazinon too.
Well, yeah, and it's just so much healthier, and it's just easy to do. It's a no-brainer, and it works on all those insects. The only thing that I found was that I kind of got a little bit relaxed when it came to the crawling insects. So the bugs that really drove me nuts were the slugs and the earwigs and
weevils.
Yeah, I didn't have too many weevil problems, but I had the sow bugs as well. Oh, okay. So it's like the little creepy crawly guys that walk on the surface of the soil are more of a pain. But even that, putting down some newspaper on the surface is helpful. So this year, like I say, through our videoing of our garden program, we're going to do the no dig system this year. Which we've always done that. We've never really turned our garden over much. We just keep adding to the surface. But because we've got a lot of these little weeds. We were talking a lot about euphorbias, different types of euphorbias, including the poinsettia plant, which is also one of the euphorbia families. And the euphorbia weed that we have is that little tiny one with the tiny little round leaves that stands up about 4 to 6 inches high. And man, that thing is aggressive, and like the whole bed would just turn green in a matter of just a couple of weeks. So we're gonna go back to the no dig program. We're gonna flatten that out. We're gonna put down some cardboard on the surface, and then we're gonna top it right up with some nice composty soil.
Ken, great advice, and if you want to have more of that great advice, give us a call 250-862-2525. Right now, we're going to take a short break, and we will be back with more AM 1150 Garden Show. Well, we all have a few resolutions this year, don't we, Ken?
Yeah.
New Year's resolutions. So. How many of you break them? You get all excited. Let's make this New Year's. I resolve to do this year instead of what I was doing before. And then what happens? Oftentimes you get broken. But anyway, I got a few New Year's resolutions for gardeners. It's we look forward to the new year in gardening, as we were talking about. And it's probably one of the things you look for in a New Year's resolution is eating healthier and getting more exercise.
Yes.
Well, the good news is, of course, that gardening does both of those things for you.
It sure does,
You grow healthy food and eat it, of course, and you want to eat it because you grew it. And even if you don't like your vegetables, well, I grew that, I got to eat it. And so then you get used to it.
It's not only is it better, but it just tastes better.
Yeah.
It's so good, yeah.
And so that's what you want to do. So one of the resolutions is plant more. Person can't have too many plants, Ken.
No, and with food crops, you can grow them in almost any kind of pot.
Right.
So you can have if you had 10 pots, you might as well fill them with soil and get some plants growing in them. I mean, you've got all that blank space in your yard, or anybody who's lucky enough to have any space. That'd be the first thing I would have is any pot I could get my hands on. Get some soil in it, ideally potting soil, and go at it. Get her planted. We plant planters up with petunias, geraniums, and all sorts of annual color and whatnot. Well, stick a tomato plant in with them. I mean, it looks nice. I mean, you got your tomato plant, you got all your color around it. They coexist quite nicely. You betcha.
And just creating some nice gardening sit down spots in the garden around your vegetable plants and whatnot, so you can sit and look at them and watch them, enjoy them. Learn something new. That's another resolution. Learn something new. Don't stay the same old. Learn something new. Ken and I we're constantly trying to learn something new because there's so much. You mentioned your tip of the week was practice a plant name once a week, right?
Once a month.
Once a month, even. Once a month. Well, it would take you 100 years to learn all the plant names, right?
Yep.
So you want to pick and choose your favorite plants that you enjoy. You might be calling them something, just a common name and whatnot. Learn the botanical name of that plant that you enjoy, that you grow every year or whatever, and learn the botanical name.
There's a little hidden secret in behind that, is that once you learn about probably 25 plant names and you get them down, you start to understand about how the plant names are pronounced and how they fit together, and then when you start seeing them and hearing them, they stick. And that's the hidden feature in that, is if you only did one plant a month, by the end of the year, do you think you'd have learned 12 plants?
Yeah,
I bet you any money you'd have learned about 20 plants or 30 plants.
30, yeah.
And then on the second year, would you really have learned 24 plants? No, probably more like about 50 plants.
Spin.
But then that would be the break point. As soon as you hit 50 plants, they just start coming. Yeah. Easy.
And you learn the basics of plant names, The fact that you start with a genus. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like the family name, not really, but it is kind of like the group of plants, the genus. Like Acer is maple. Yep. So all maples start with Acer, with a capital letter. A-C-E-R, Acer. Could be Acer palmatum, the Japanese maple. It could be Acer japonica, pseudoplatinum. Yeah. There's just so many. The second word is with a small letter, with a lowercase letter, and that is your species. So genus, species, and your variety or cultivar. Mm-hmm. Now, those are basically what is in most plant names.
Exactly. So if it says Acer palmatum, that means Acer is a maple, and then what kind of maple? It's a palmatum maple.
Right.
So the two go together. It's just the really clear identification of what that is.
And then Inabashader would be your variety.
Be the cultivar or the variety. If it's, it could be either.
If it's a variety, that means it came naturally that way. A cultivar is something that somebody had created and named.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff.
Super cool.
That's something you can learn. So learn something new this year. Mm. We've got, looks like we've got a couple of callers, Ken, and I don't have my cell phone, so I'm going to have it whispered in my ear.
There you go.
So we have Jan on line one. Or Dan. Is it Dan? Oh, it's Dan. Well, look, Dan is going to hold on because he's got something very important to talk about at the quarter two's time. So just hang on, Dan, because we want to get you on. So we got Linda on the line. Good morning, Linda.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, I just have a little funny story to tell you. I'm the lady that gave away the clivia plants in the fall.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Anyway, I got rid of them, and I replanted two of them, actually. Anyway, it's funny because yesterday I noticed here's a little tomato plant coming up. It's about 2 inches high. I couldn't believe it.
Coming up in your clivia pot. There you go.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, I can hardly hear you, so I'm going to hang up. But I just wanted to tell you that it's kind of fun.
Well, that sounds like fun.
It's a little taste of spring.
Yeah, you betcha,
awesome.
Linda. And we appreciate the call because we love hearing from you. And good luck with that tomato plant.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Yeah, and make sure you call back next show, and we'll chat about that. That's pretty cool.
Well, let's get Dan on. I mean, what the heck? He's there. I don't want his ear to start hurting. So let's say hello to Dan. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning.
Morning.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you,
Dan.
my friend. And the idea, of course, as we discussed last night, you were going to phone in so that you can go on the air after the quarter two break. But that's okay. You're on before the quarter two break, and we're happy to have you here.
Well, we had in fact planned to highlight this little project at Fintry, which is a sort of an exhibition that celebrates the achievements of Scottish botanists and plant collectors over the years. These guys went out from Scotland and went to various parts of the world. In some cases, endured incredible hardship in order to collect seeds of plants that would form parts of gardens and economic projects as well. David Douglas was one of the most famous ones. He was born 25th of June, 1799 in Scone. Very important place in Scotland, place where the Scottish kings were crowned. And by 1820, he'd been hired by the Glasgow Botanic Garden, and Sir Joseph Hooker took him sort of under his wing and taught him a lot about botany, how to collect and preserve seeds, taught him the use of proper names, which is crucial. And he was then sent to North America. 1823, he went to eastern North America and to Canada. Then by 1827, he'd been sent right the way around Cape Horn, bottom end of South America, and ended up at Fort Vancouver in what is now Oregon. Collecting plants, actual specimens that he preserved, and also collecting seeds that would be viable when they got sent back to England. So one of his sort of real interest was collecting the seed of the sugar pine, Pinus lambertiana, which produces gigantic cones that can be over a foot long. We actually have a sugar pine cone at Fintry. People in the trophy room will be able to see it.
Would he have found those in California? Or?
Sugar pine is from the Oregon. Northern California, Oregon. That was a tree he really, really, really wanted to introduce into cultivation. And as Robbie Burns said, the best laid plans of mice and men gang off the gley. Sugar pine does not do well anywhere outside of its natural habitat.
Oh.
That's in contrast to the Douglas fir, which we all know. That was first reported by Archibald Menzies, but introduced by David Douglas, and is now the major source of timber in the UK and in many parts of Europe. Then Douglas was literally all over the map. I mean, he started out from Fort Vancouver, and he kept going east until he reached the shores of Hudson's Bay, which in 1827 must have been one heck of a trip.
Oh, yeah. Unbelievable.
Then he went on back to Britain and was sent out again in 1833 to travel north from Fort Vancouver, came through BC to Fort St. James. And he was planning on heading through to Alaska and Siberia, but there was a serious canoe wreck, and he lost his specimens and lost his journal, and that was a bad deal.
Devastating.
No.
So in 1834, he went to Hawaii, and one can imagine that he did a little bit of relaxation on the big island of Hawaii after having had a canoe wreck in northern BC.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to interrupt here because I want you to hang on. This is really great. I'm really enjoying this, and I've got a couple of questions to ask you regarding Douglas. But we do have to take a break, stay on track. So we're going to do that. We're going to take a short break now, and we'll be back with more Dan Bruce story on Douglas, the botanist. We come back with more AM 1150 Garden Show. Well, here we are, back again, and I want to welcome Dan Bruce back to the show. Thank you for your patience, Dan. And we're talking about Mr. Douglas, the botanist, a Scottish botanist, in a series of botanists that Dan's going to introduce to us this spring as we go through the various Saturday mornings.
Well, I think we left him just arriving in Hawaii and feeling some sort of environmental relief after Alaska.
Right.
The thing in Hawaii is he continued, of course, to collect plants and seeds, and he also made a number of sort of astronomical observations that the British Navy required. David Douglas had a sort of a love-hate relationship with cattle. And, of course, in Hawaii, there were large numbers of cattle that had run wild. On the Big Island, this is the result of Captain Vancouver conveying cattle to Hawaii as a gift from George III to the King of Hawaii. Unfortunately, David Douglas was killed by one of these animals. He fell into a pit that was dug as a cattle trap and was apparently trampled to death by the animal that was already in the pit.
Unbelievable. Wow.
A really horrific ending. There's a continuing doubt as to exactly what happened, because the only sort of surviving witness was his pet dog, who was not saying anything.
Remained silent.
Yeah.
But there is a possibility that he had a disagreement with one of the local hunters, and he might have been pushed.
Right.
But we don't know.
We don't know this.
Anyway, since that time, of course, monuments have been raised in his honor at Stone in Scotland and also in Hawaii. And in 2012, a David Douglas Society was started in the States to encourage people to follow in his footsteps and study his life and work. So there's no question that he was a very significant, figure. Over 800 species of plants were collected by him, and many of these are now familiar garden plants.
So the species would be Douglasii?
Some of them are, but certainly not all.
No.
The Douglas fir isn't Douglasii, it's Menziesii.
Right, you're right. Now, there's one of my questions. I got the two questions for you, and we do have callers coming in, so we do have to move on this. But I'll tell you what, when I've been doing some of my classes and talking to people in general, my story is totally, you've just blown my story. I was lying or something, or I was misinformed. I heard that Douglas was the first one that came in. At least this is what my story is. Douglas came in, saw this Douglas fir, and called it AB's Douglasii, and so we've always called it a Douglas fir. And then Menzies came along and corrected him. So I'm out to lunch because Menzies had already discovered and named the Douglas fir Pseudotsuga menziesii, right?
Yes.
So Douglas had, the only reason that Douglas fir came in as a common name was because he's the one that commercialized it, got it spread around as a commercial entity, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, he sent the seed to Britain, where it was grown with great success, and then it was distributed from there to other places. So, I mean, it's a major forestry tree in Europe.
So that's where the Douglas fir came in. He's the one that introduced it into as a commercial entity.
Yes.
Now, okay, so just get back where the Pseudotsuga menziesii. So Menzies was on whose ship?
Menzies was the botanist on the ship kept in Vancouver.
Okay, this is good because we're going to talk about Menzies in a future.
Menzies will be coming up on the menu a bit later on.
Yeah, and that's good. So we won't go too much further into that.
Right.
But
I would like to mention before before we go that this project at Fintry was done this summer, and one of our summer students, Rachel Moores, was instrumental in putting a lot of this information together. So Rachel, who has just been married, thank you. Wherever you are, hope you're listening.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's great. We appreciate that, Rachel, very much. So David Douglas was our first botanist.
Yes.
Why Scottish botanists, Dan?
Well, because some of us are well aware, Fintry was founded by James Cameron Dunn Waters, who was definitely Scottish. And he is an example of these enterprising northerners who went out into various parts of the world and changed the world, quite often for the better. So that is the main reason why we are doing this, and certainly there was botanical and horticultural interest at Fintry.
Now, the other question I was going to ask you is, what ship did David Douglas, because most of those ships, those explorer ships, Cook and all the rest of them, they had their own botanist with them, right?
Yes. Now, in the case of Douglas, he sort of went as a passenger on whatever ship was handy.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't specific that he was attached to a special expedition.
We're coming up to the news time here, Dan. Thank you so much. Now, who's next on the agenda next week?
Well, that could very well be Archibald Menzies.
Well, there we go. Let's look forward to meeting Archibald. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you, Dan, very much. We always appreciate you calling in, and now we've got a real format for you here to explain some of these people. Very interesting, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Dan.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, that's going to be a nice segment
It's
to
super
have.
cool, yeah. It's just amazing to envision that somebody went all the way, like, say, from Newfoundland all the way down to the south of South America, around and up the other side.
Well,
At
it
that
is.
time,
It
like,
is.
it's one thing, nowadays with modern machinery, but
Very
on a
adventurous,
sailboat?
very adventurous
Oh, my
and brave people, I'll tell you, and focused, passionate people.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to take a short break here for the news, the 9 o'clock news, and we'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden Show. Well, here we are for the second half of the first show of the year, and Ken Salvail and I are here at your service. We've opened the lines now to the callers, 250-862-2525, and our first caller to talk to is, we got Maxine. Good morning, Maxine.
Good morning, you guys. I just wanted to wish you both and all your listeners a Happy New Year.
Oh,
Maxine DeHart, you are a gem. Thank you so much for giving us a call. And did you expand your gardening experience this year through this pandemic year?
Listen, the only way I expand my gardening experience is when I call you guys up and I have a problem. So that's about my gardening experience, but I enjoy the show, and I must tell you, I'm just on my way to the hotel, to the Ramada, and I was listening to the gentleman you had on just before the news, and was that ever really, it was really great to listen to him.
Well, thank you. Thank you, because we are doing a whole series of Scottish botanists coming up. That's Dan Bruce helping us with that. And I'm glad you enjoyed that. I found it fascinating, too. And so many of these adventuring people, Ken and I were just talking about that during the break, and how they can just leave their home and go across the world in those ships. Many of the people on the ships never even made it across the Atlantic, and then wander through the uncharted. We have to remind people as well, though, there was a lot of people living here before the Europeans came, and these folks had lots of life going on and wonderful, wonderful thing. So there was a big change when the Europeans came. However, you got to hand it to these guys and how adventurous they were to do this.
Well, it was just really refreshing to hear something new, and I just thought it was great on my way down, like I said, to the hotel, listening in the car. And so anyway, Happy New Year to you guys, and I'll enjoy listening to you for the rest of the year.
Thank you, dear. We appreciate your call. We appreciate what you do, and all the folks on City Council. Thank you, and Happy New Year to you as well.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye now.
New Year. Bye-bye.
Okay, we're going to go to Sandy. Good morning, Sandy.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
I just got a picture shown to me. My husband came in, and he's just taken a picture of the first robin.
Oh, wow. Might be the last robin, too.
Maybe it's the last robin, yeah.
It's a little early this year, but there's a robin in the tree.
My
Nice.
goodness, yeah. I remember taking Sandy when I was in our first house at 607 Glenwood, the old Thorpe house. We moved into that. It was built in the 1920s. And we were there for 5 years in that first house of ours. Beautiful. We have many fond memories. And one of the memories was I went out backyard, and sitting on my grape arbor was a robin, and the snow and the frost and everything were all around. And he was all puffed up and, trying to be as warm as he could get, or she, I'm not sure if it's a he or she. So they do show up at this time of year.
Hopefully there's something for them to eat.
Yeah. Kind of hard to pull a worm out of frozen soil.
Yeah, I don't think worms are on the menu, but I'm sure they're omnivores. They'll probably eat just about anything.
Well, Sandy, that's...
Anyhow, I thought that was pretty good for this time of year.
You betcha.
Sure is,
It
yeah.
is. That's great. And we appreciate you and your calls you give us through the season. We appreciate it very much. And we want to wish you all the best for the new year, 2021.
Well, thank you. It's got to be better than it was.
Yeah, everybody's saying that. 2021. That sounds weird to me.
It does.
I mean, 1984 sounded weird when in the 60s when Orwell or whoever it was put out the book 1984.
It was way in the future.
And we thought, well, oh, wow, that's 1984. Wow, is that ever going to come? And it came and went very quickly. Then the 2001 Space Odyssey, we saw that in 1967 or 68 down in Vancouver. 2001 Space Odyssey, and the fact that I mean, it seems so far in the future. And now it's so far in the 2001 Space Odyssey. We're 20 years past that.
Well, it's funny because somebody will be saying something about like the age of a car or something is 1970 something.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't sound like it's that long ago, but
No, it doesn't.
It's an antique now.
I know.
Ay.
Sandy, thank you so much for your call, and all the best.
thanks a lot.
Happy gardening.
Yep. Bye bye.
Happy New
You
Year.
betcha.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Yeah, we've got a lot of folks that have called in on a regular basis, Ken, and we appreciate that. But our number is 250-862-2525 to get through to us today. We're here January 2nd. Answer your gardening questions, indoor or outdoor. Mm-hmm. And I want to go back to my little list of gardening New Year's resolutions for gardeners. Left with first of all, it was a plant more. Plant more, which is something we can all do. And learn something new is the next one. Before we go on to the next one, which is care for wildlife. Some wildlife you want, some wildlife you don't want. But anyway, care for wildlife. We'll talk about that. We're going to get to the phone lines again, and Vicki is on the line. Good morning, Vicki.
Good morning, Vicki.
Oh, good morning. I've got you on speaker. Hang on.
There we go. Are you still there? Uh-oh.
Hello, Vicki.
Maybe Vicki's got her phone back. Maybe she got cut off there accidentally. Okay, Vicki, well, give us a call back. We'll be waiting for you.
Care for wildlife, Ken.
Yeah.
Care for wildlife.
Cool.
I mean, the birds in particular are nice to have around.
Yeah.
Until they start eating your grapes.
Yes.
You got a
that's
well-behaved wildlife.
Yeah.
That's how you care for them.
Well,
you teach them how to behave themselves.
Yeah, that's by putting up physical barriers. Yeah, that's the way to go.
Just tease them. Here's my
See?
grapes.
Want
Sorry,
some of these grapes?
Sorry,
Yeah.
you can't eat these. But bird baths and things. You got to be careful a little bit with the bird feeders. Because the RATS is in there. Vicki, you're back on the air. Thanks for phoning back.
Good morning. I had you on speakerphone and I hit the wrong button.
Oh, how many of us have done that?
Anyway, I do enjoy listening to Dan Bruce.
Oh, nice.
He's such a knowledgeable gentleman.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I do, excuse me, I do have a question. I would like to start this year petunias and pansies indoors. Now, I do have a light, fluorescent light, grow light. And I'm wondering, are they very difficult to start? And when should I start them so that they'll be a good size in the spring?
Yeah, well, I'm going to let Ken take this, but I think it's pansies first, and then wait a while for your petunias. Ken, what would you say about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the pansies, I would imagine you could get them going sometime in January because I'm pretty sure we used to get them started early. Yeah. And having the grow light is really important, and a little bit of bottom heat, which is really important if you have a little bit of a heating pad just to stimulate the germination. And as soon as they germinate, then you'd remove them from a heating pad, but just maintain that bright light, and a grow light's definitely the way to go. The petunias will be really easy to do in comparison. So petunias, you can push them way, way ahead into March because they just hop to it. As soon as you get them in, they're up and growing. And we really can't plant any of these out until at least, middle of May or even after, towards the end of May, depending on the season. So it's a long time to keep plants going indoors, but keep the grow lights going and keep tuning in with us and asking us questions because there's a few things you do along the way, like cutting them back a little bit along the way. So.
Oh, yeah, that's something else, so they don't get all leggy.
Yeah, you cut them back and then they branch out a little bit more, but you maintain that bright light, and whenever you get a nice, warm, sunny day, which won't happen, I'm sure, until we get into March at some point, where you'd be able to actually put them outside in the day and bring them in. Because you even have to watch that these plants really, really don't like going colder than about plus 8 degrees Celsius, maybe plus 6, but that would be at the coldest.
Right.
So if your high temperature outside's only 6, it's not really good to put them out in that.
I have another question. Somebody once told me that it's the red spectrum that the plants like from the grow lamps. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering, do you know that?
Yeah, well, it's all those colors. When you do pick a grow light, you just I usually just try to get a broad spectrum grow light, which has a variety of colors. They say that the plants don't actually absorb the green much, so they actually reflect it away, so that's why the plants look green. But so it's mostly the reds and blues that they seem to like the most, and so, yeah, that's what you'll see.
Well, what I was wondering is if I had just normal fluorescent lights, could I put a red cellophane between the plant and the lamp? And would that be sufficient, or is it all the other colors that they like?
Yeah, it's
what we have done in the past, Vicki, is this: is we used to use a fluorescent lamp with a couple of incandescent bulbs associated with it, in parallel with it, right? So you've got your incandescent, and your infrared in one spot, and that kind of gives you the full spectrum: the blue from the fluorescent and the red from the incandescent. You know,
well, the incandescent, is that just like your regular
incandescent bulb, 60-watt incandescent bulb.
They tend to stretch.
Watt. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they'll stretch a little bit with that particular color as well. So you just have to watch that. But anytime you buy an actual grow light, that's the way to do it. When you buy those bulbs, you buy the ones that are actual grow light bulbs.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's how I started, and then because I used to start my tomatoes inside, then I would put one regular fluorescent and one grow light fluorescent in there, and they seem to do okay. But then when somebody told me, it's the red spectrum that they like, I thought, I could just drape some red cellophane, clear cellophane.
I'm not sure. I'm not too familiar with how you could create red with the cellophane. It might be possible. Maybe we have a scientist out there that can tell us.
Right.
I'm not sure.
The cellophane is actually red itself.
Yeah,
the
only issue is it will drop the intensity of that light so much that it because they don't have the intensity that you would have. Like what the plants are used to is what the sun produces. So the sun compared to a grow light, like say a fluorescent tube, that's so touching a plant. Like if you get it right down so it's just about an inch away from the plant, that would be probably about maybe around 1/20th of what the sun difference would be. Like so it's 20 times brighter to just set them outside the door. So that's where if you get into higher quality lights now with some new LED lights, they're cheaper to use and they're readily available, and they have those in a broad spectrum that are good, and they're available at a bunch of local places now. And I know there's that place down on Kirshner, and I keep forgetting their name, on Kirshner Road, but they sell all kinds of grow lights and things, and really. Those are really nice. They come with all kinds of hanging units and things, so you can set them up. And then they're kind of square shape, and they have some fans. They don't burn super hot, but they do produce some heat.
Right.
And they're very efficient, so they don't waste too much electricity.
Well, I don't have a very big spot to grow them. Actually, it's an adjustable bookshelf that I've hung my lights from the bottom of the shelf above, and then the plants.
Yeah, the daylight.
Below it.
When you buy a fluorescent tube, they'll come in what's called daylight color. It's sort of a high K, it's a high K value, usually 5,000 or 6,000, around 5,000 K, and that's what the plants like. Humans like the warmer colors, so they're more like 3,000 K, and it's kind of a little bit yellowy. You might notice that sometimes. So when you do, even if you had the fluorescent tubes, you'd want to make sure they were the natural daylight ones.
Okay.
And that would be the starting point. And then grow lights. So if I had one of each, I would definitely make sure I had the one fluorescent one I had was a daylight type.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, good. Thank you very much.
Linda, thank you for the call. We appreciate your call and listening to The Garden Show.
And Happy New Year.
Yeah. Happy New Year to you as well.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
for calling. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. On that note, we're going to take a short break. We've got Addie waiting for us. Good friend Addie. She's been a caller since Genesis, really. I think so. We are going to take that short break now. We'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden Show. We are back with you on a beautiful Saturday morning, January 2nd. Hard to believe that it is January 2nd on a beautiful day like this. Addie, good morning. Happy New Year to you.
Good morning, guys. Happy New Year to you, too.
Happy New Year.
It's wonderful outside. I feel like I should go and shovel some of the snow away and see if some of the bulbs will come through.
Yeah, that's right. I got to go out and pull some carrots.
Well, you know what? I didn't put any in this year, so I don't have anything to pull. But, however, I'm wondering about planting canna lilies this early.
Getting them started, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting it in the house and pots.
Might be a tad early, but it depends on what situation you've got. If you've got a nice sunny window that's bright enough, starting them early wouldn't hurt, Ken?
Yeah, having a grow light would sure help. That's for sure.
Well, I've got bright windows, so I'm not worried about that. I'm just, it takes them so long to bloom. They start blooming when it's almost time for the frost to come on.
You've got that right.
I thought if I started them early enough, that would be great. So,
I don't think there's any harm in doing that, Addie. I think you can start them. If you got the room for it, go do it.
Yeah. Well, my amaryllis and my orchid plants, for the third year in a row, have decided to do one after the other. The minute my amaryllis plant finishes blooming, my orchid plant starts blooming.
Wow.
Isn't that something? It's
That's
3
awesome.
years in a row now. It's a whole thing. But anyway, did you open your phone on the text message, Don? I sent you some pictures of what was happening in our backyard on New Year's morning.
Addie, I miss some of those because I don't get a signal. And then I go into the thing, and then I see them. I will check that out. I didn't actually open it on New Year's.
Well, it was a couple of. Well, I just sent them to you this morning. It was a couple of deer eating out of the bird feeders.
Ah, wow. Well,
unseen.
That's the wildlife we're talking about that we're enjoying in our gardens now. The interesting thing is, this is one of the first days that I didn't bring my phone to the radio station. So this is what I'm going to say is this is my New Year's resolution to always remember to bring my phone to the radio station because that way I can get. Now, did you send it to the email or did you send it to a text?
Message.
A text, yeah. So I can't get that on my computer. But
okay. You know what? I'll try to send it on email.
If you email me that, Addie, I'll check it out and we'll have a look.
Okay, great. You guys have a blessed New Year and all the best to you and your families.
Thank you and Bill as well. You take care.
Happy New Year.
Bye-bye now. Yeah, the old deer, there you go. So the New Year's resolution, of course, is take care of, care for the wildlife. Invite the local wildlife into your garden. There's many of these ideas to do that. Build a home for the wildlife. I don't know if you want to build a home for the deer, but you can build a home for the wildlife, the ones you want, and spend the winter in. And so we've got birds still going into our birdhouses. I don't know why, what they're doing. These are sparrows, eh?
Sparrows, yeah. I guess they're just enjoying this warm weather.
Yeah, there they are. Plant a buffet for birds with fruit-bearing shrubs and trees. Well, I do that every year with my grapes and kiwis. So the interesting thing is the birds don't go after my kiwis. The birds devastate my grapes, but they don't go after my kiwis. It's one of the benefits of kiwis is that the birds don't go after them. Yeah. And now I'm not getting any of the spotted-winged Drosophila in there either. I'm not getting any worms in. So the kiwis are still a good bet. I almost ripped them out after I had a couple of years with that spotted-winged Drosophila. But I think that's kind of going to... Oh, I got to tell you, I found twice now in my living room, I found the brown marmorated stink bugs, which is introduced in my living room, Ken. And I've sent a picture to our wonderful entomologist, provincial entomologist, Ms. Achenpong, Susanna Achenpong, and she says, yes, you have the ever popular marmorated stink bug.
That's a bad one, actually. It's incredibly invasive, and I don't know if you've looked it up, but you can see pictures of them covering trees where you literally can't see the bark of the tree. Just for the number of, and they're not really species specific what they eat. Like they'll go on a maple tree, or they'll go on they'll eat trees. Like they'll eat every leaf off of them. So they're a tough one, and they're starting to become established here. And it takes those hot summers, which we've had a few, where they really multiply. So hopefully we don't get into too much trouble with that.
Ken, we've got Sandra joining us. Good morning, Sandra. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
How's everything?
Good. I've got a question.
Okay, you shoot.
I planted an amaryllis bulb about a week ago. How long does it take before it should show some sprouting?
Well, you have to talk to it a bit because they all have their own schedule. I've planted amaryllis bulbs and waited, and it took a month and a half.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Then I planted amaryllis bulbs, and within a week and a half, they start pushing. So it's really there's really no rhyme and reason. But if you buy one from the store, they pre-cool it. They do something to it to prepare it. And so if this is an amaryllis bulb that you've purchased from the store, you plant it in a pot that's not too big and give it a good soaking, and then don't water it again until you see it push.
Yeah, that's what it said on the box, but now it's sort of dried out, the dirt, so I was just wondering.
We've had amaryllis. We used to get them in bulk, and we'd have them in our bulk bins. We'd have them, the blooms, no soil around them, no water, and the blooms are hanging out of the bins. They will bloom, but on the other side of the coin, they will rot if you give them too much water.
Okay, so no water at all?
Well, if it goes bone dry, you might want to give it a drink. But really, like I say, the key thing is to soak it when you first put it in the pot. Soak it right, like really soaked, and then let them go dry and don't water it again until you start seeing them grow.
Yeah, but I just sort of wondered on the timeline, but it sounds like it could be very iffy.
It is varied, but when you buy them fresh from the store, they have prepared them somehow. Hey, Ken? I mean,
I've bought them, and one I had took almost 4 months.
Well, there you go. So,
I just keep feeling the bulb, make sure it's still firm, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I just think, like, hello, are you in there? Wake up. But no, they're just have a mind of their own. And as Dawn has said, we've had literally hundreds over the years, and some would just take off right away, and some just sit and wait.
So this one that you had in the pot for about 4 months, did you give it any water along the way?
Yeah, I did exactly as Dawn was saying, is that initially I gave it a good soak, and then after that I would just sort of monitor it. I'd stick my finger down the side and see how moist it was. And then because of my horticultural background, I would once in a while pop it out of the pot and check for new roots. And I actually did see some new roots coming out. So I thought, well, hey, that's a good sign. So put it back in, and I would keep it predominantly dry, but about every, say, 10 days or so, I'd give it a little bit of water just in case, that would help it. Mm-hmm. And eventually it did grow, and it bloomed, and it was great, and it was fine. So.
All right. Well, I'll give it
They do
be a little more patient.
They do have a mind of their own.
Okay. Thank you,
Sandra. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You take care.
Happy New Year.
Thanks. You too. Bye.
Yeah,
bye now. Now we've got Bill waiting online. Should we take a break first, and then Bill? Yeah, I think we're going to do that. Bill, be patient. We love you. Hang on there, because we're going to get to you right after these messages when we come back with more AM 1150 Garden Show. We are back for the last half hour of the show, and we are enjoying being here as we do every Saturday morning. We're going to go back to the lines, and we've got Dawn on line 1. Good morning. Or no, Bill on line 2. We can take Bill first.
How you doing, Bill?
Good morning, gentlemen. How's it going?
Very well.
Good, thanks. Happy New Year.
Good. That marmorated stink bug has established itself really well in my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I find them around my house all the time now.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I had a friend of mine. She's an entomologist with Ag Canada, and so I met Susanna through her. Mm-hmm. And she came over here one day, and she went, "Oh yeah, that's definitely one of them. Yeah, you look for the white bands on the antenna, and there's the BC government / plant health site has a pretty good explanation on how what to look for." But it's like I say, I'm just saying, around here in my neighborhood, I find them regularly, whether they're, they come in with my firewood. Found one on top of my curtain rod a couple of days ago.
Yeah, well, like I say, Bill, I found 2 in our living room, and I don't bring firewood in, so I don't know, maybe they're coming in on my boots or something.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to take my boots off, but I don't sometimes.
Oh, you bad boy.
Yeah, I know. But, so there you go. Just how we're going to manage this thing or not. It doesn't have, because it's an invasive species, there probably aren't any natural enemies for it, so it could be a bad thing.
You have to, you almost have to get a magnifying glass out to see the white bands on the antenna. If you got lousy eyes like me, you definitely need magnifying glass or something.
Right.
But and they're just, they're really prolific. It's just, it's the same as what is it, the Drosophilus fruit fly for the peaches and that. It's it's like, oh God, you dealing with that is I'm religious on burying all my fruit down deep, all my peelings and everything with my peach tree, and the same with the stink bug is like, oh, okay, well, you're going into the fireplace right now.
No, that's right, Bill. Well, we'll have to see how things unravel with that.
Yeah,
it just seems the spotted winged Drosophila is kind of on the wane in some ways because I'm not having the issues with my kiwis anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, Bill, all the best to you, sir.
All the best to you. I'll see you soon.
You betcha. Thanks very much. Okay.
Bye-bye.
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 Of course, Bill's in my neighborhood, so my neighborhood's got the stink bug.
Why you got him, eh?
There we go. We've got Dawn on line 1. You're talking to Dawn, and you're talking to Dawn and Ken.
Good morning, Dawn and Ken. How you guys doing today?
It's my Dawn. It's our Dawn.
I just had to jump in and add to your. And I love when you're talking about the wildlife and the gardens. I sort of took it for granted a bit. I have a grandson now, and we put a bird feeder up just before Christmas for him. And I think I'm enjoying it more than he is. There is such an array of birds out there that you never think about and you never notice. And just for fun, I looked up sparrows. I said, well, how many sparrows do we have here? Over the western coast, up and down, there's like 25 different species, varieties of sparrows. So there's a lot of diversity out there in the plant in the world. So
you're going to become a modern day Darwin there, Dawn. You'll be Darwin's looking studying the birds.
It's just something I thought anyway. I overlooked it, and now that I'm sort of paying attention to it, it's really been a lot of fun. And I encourage everybody to sort of look at the other aspects of gardening, and the wildlife part of it is a big part of it.
How about deer? You enjoy having deer come through your garden?
Well, I'm in town here, so I don't get too many deer, but too many wildlife like that. But there's some nuisance ones, I guess, that can chew up your shrubs and do all that. But
there you go. Now the neat thing is, Don, you are now a new grandfather 2 times over.
I know.
And that's pretty exciting. We've got James, who was born 2 years ago, a couple of years ago, and what a giant person he is. He's becoming a real little character. And now we have Lewis, born in November, just a couple of months old now or whatever.
I know.
And very exciting for you, Don, and you make a great granddaddy.
Oh, boy, now I really feel old.
Grandpa. The interesting thing, Don, is when back in the day, we had Grandpa Burnett, which was my dad, and Grandpa Stoltz, which is your dad, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm Grandpa Burnett, and you're Grandpa Stoltz.
Here we go again.
That's right.
Exactly.
No, very good, guys. Take care. I don't want to tie a line too much. I just want to say that the wildlife really has been a real treat this year for me. I never really paid attention to it, but now that I put a bird feeder up, it's been fun.
That's great, Don. You've always been a little on the wild side, so that's pretty good.
Oh, boy.
There you go.
All right.
Okay. Take care, man.
Take care, guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Happy New Year. Bye-bye.
Yeah, good, Don Stoltz. We worked together for a long time. Saw each other every day, and that was a good thing. Worked for the city of Kelowna. Now is retired from the city of Kelowna, and we will have him on periodically on the garden show too. Just adds a little flavor to it. He's a part of the flavor of the garden show. We enjoy doing this every Saturday morning, and appreciate the listenership, and appreciate the calls, because that's really what makes it go. In fact, I'll put up the phone number again, 250-862-2525 to get through to Ken and I today. We got about 15 minutes left on the garden show. I think we're going to take a break a little early. There's nobody on the line, but it gives you a chance to phone in, and we'll have time to answer your calls and questions when we come back with more AM 1150 Garden Show. Well, we are back, the last little segment of the show, the very first show of the year, and we're excited. As I say, we're always excited to be here. We've appreciated being able to come here every Saturday morning, Ken and I, and we were just talking about some of the New Year's resolutions that gardeners can make. Care for the wildlife is the last one, and make maintenance easy is the next one. I'm going to make my yard a little bit more maintenance-free. Now, or maintenance-easy. There's no such thing as maintenance-free. There's no such thing as a garden that's maintenance-free. It's called gardening, and gardening is...
Yeah, if you have a garden and you have plants, then there's going to be maintenance. That's just the way it is.
You know, they talk about setting up your container plants with a drip system. That sort of makes sense. You can
it makes life easier. Yeah. That's for sure. You still got to check them. You still got to fertilize them. You still got to clean them up, and you still got to check and make sure that irrigation system works. So that's what I find with planters, very important. It's just checking to see that they're running. And so what I do, because it's such a low volume thing, it's one of the things you can run in the daytime. And often in the Okanagan, we need it. We need to have our planters running, just because the intense heat here is that if you didn't have it run, you know, if you watered it first thing in the morning, by noon, they'd be dry, bone dry and dying. So you have to have that second run time around 1 p.m. just to get you, loaded with water for the afternoon. But that's the time, if you know what time it goes off, go and check it. That's, every day it goes off at 1 p.m. If you're able to, or say set it if you come home for lunch or something, 12:30, set it for that time so that you know. Working. And then, when you walk past, you can just check. Yep, water's dripping out of all the hanging baskets, and I can see the sprinklers are working. Somebody's got to check those, because they do sometimes plug up or they shut off for whatever reason. They need to be tweaked a little. So you definitely keep an eyeball on those.
So another thing to watch for too. We used to have these indicator plants in our hanging baskets. We'd put an indicator plant in that would wilt first before the other important plants wilted. Right. For instance, our hanging geraniums. They are ivy geraniums. They could go quite dry between watering, right? But not too dry. So they wanted to go a little bit dry. So we had Nepeta or something planted in the first one as well. Yeah. With the geranium, so that when it started to wilt a bit, we knew we had to go turn that line on. So indicator plants are good. So take care of, the next one here is take care of pesky pets, but making maintenance easy. Take better care of your tools. Like, sharpen your pruners. Have them nice and maintained and oiled and sharpened so they work well. It's nothing worse than dull tools to make gardening maintenance very difficult. You want to have good, sharp tools. Yeah,
I definitely was procrastinating on my my secateur maintenance last year, for sure. I could definitely improve that in 2021.
There you go. That's your garden. That's your gardening New Year's resolution right there, Ken. Yeah.
Get some of that 3-in-1 oil. I like that. That's what I use.
Take care of pests. Well, that's what we do on the garden show all the time. We talk about the various pests. And, of course, now that we don't have the tools we used to have as far as the chemical help that we had, which is a good thing. We're not complaining about the fact that they're not here. It's just that we do have to make that adjustment. It was so easy just to throw in a little diazinon granules in with your onions and everything was fine. Now that's not available, and it's good that it's not available, but we have to change our thinking about that. And like Ken was saying earlier on, garden screening for these some of these animals or pests are very important. Start a compost. Go green, it says here. It's another gardening resolution. Go green. Make your own garden soil. If you got a little space, it doesn't take much space, you can start your own compost bins. And Ken's a genius at that. He did back in Burnett days. He did the very first composting seminar that we ever put on, and he put it on right there. That was like 30 years ago, Ken.
That was quite a while ago.
30 years ago.
I remember when that was.
Scary.
Yeah, in 88, I think it was, wasn't it?
There you go. Well, more than 30 years ago then. Hey. 33 years ago. That's 33 years ago.
Time flies.
Yeah. Don't let weeds get the upper hand this year. Learn how to manage them and recognize the bad ones, the good, the bad, and the bugly kind of thing, because some weeds are easy to maintain after they've kind of got out of hand. Others, when they get out of hand, they're out of hand for good. You're never going to get rid of them. So don't let certain weeds ever get out of hand. Creeping in, mare's tail is one.
Ooh, that's a tough one. Yeah,
mare's tail.
There's some that I would say that you could have pretty much the full gamut of weeds as long as you don't have the horsetail and the bindweed is something I think everybody has that. Like I've got bindweed throughout all my beds, and it was just there. Originally, it's always been there, and it'll always be there. Yep. So, but I'm going to be. I'll keep working at it, and hopefully have better years than others. And I'm going to be utilizing this no dig system with cardboard, using cardboard on the surface, and it really, really does help to suppress those weeds.
Let's keep in touch with you on that.
Yep, you betcha.
Keep that up. Get involved, volunteer. At local garden, community gardens, and that sort of thing. Community gardens are really coming to full force right now. Yeah. A lot of folks live in condos and townhouses and small areas where they can't have a garden. So community gardens are really taking off. Yeah,
we participated in a lot of volunteering with the community gardens not so much in 2020, just because of the COVID thing. It made it harder to do, and it was hard for us to send staff out to those areas. But we'll see how it goes in 21. Hopefully we can get back onto that bandwagon and help out, and really enjoy getting out to the community gardens and doing a little public speaking and teaching and helping out, lending a hand. It really helps. It zooms them ahead a little bit. When you have a couple laborers out there, some people who can help you move some material or load some compost or whatever you need. It's fun.
Yeah, and join a garden club.
Yeah.
That's the Kelowna Garden Club. There's Garden Club. There's the Orchid Club. There's the Bonsai Club. There's all sorts of clubs out there, succulent clubs, that you can join and have some fun. The communication. This last year was not too clubsy, but we'll make sure that changes this year, and we have more fun with the clubs. But the Kelowna Garden Club is the general one that we like to. You've spoken at them. I'm a life member of the Kelowna Garden Club, which is I'm very proud of that. So we're a big supporter of them, and it's a great club. Lots of diversity in the club, lots of youth in the club, and lots of very experienced older folks in the club as well. So there you go. Mm-hmm. So what we did for Christmas this year, Ken, our family, we Zoomed. We had a Zoom get-together at Christmas, and it was actually quite nice. We had my daughters, my youngest daughter's boyfriend works up north at the oil patch. He joined us on Zoom. My son and his girlfriend from Vancouver joined us on Zoom. My sister, Joan from Gibson's, joined us in there. We had Lisa and Bree, my daughter and her wife, on that Zoom as well.
Yeah, Zoom's great. I would say that for anybody, who hasn't participated in a Zoom seminar or webinar, you should try it. It's really easy. In most cases, you just need to download a little app onto your computer. So once you have that, you don't have to redo it once you got it. And actually, a lot of times they'll send you a link on your email, and all you do is click on it, and you're in. It's as simple as that. And once you're in, there's generally somebody who moderates it, somebody who knows what's going on. So that's the key. Somebody has to know what's going on. Yeah. But luckily, when we do our webinars through growercoach.com, we have a moderator. We have Roz who is in the background, and she makes sure that everything happens, and she answers questions for people, and she'll phone them even if she has to make sure they get online in time for the webinar. And it's really good. It's nice to have that moderator, that person there who can just make sure everything runs smoothly, So that's something that we're definitely looking forward to this spring. So we're going to be doing all kinds of different seminars and webinars and things. And actually, Don, we should gang up on one. Maybe do a joint pruning webinar or something.
Sure, I'm in, Ken. I'm in.
We're close to the bubble thing, so we can keep our distance. I got a space there set up for it. So, it should be fun.
That will be fun. And now here's the deal, too. My last New Year's resolution for gardeners here is have some fun. And in particular, as Donnie will be doing with his young grandson, James, turn him on to gardening. I mean, there's nothing like a youngster seeing a plant come to fruition and eat the darn fruit off the plant, or eat the plant itself, depending on what you're growing. Nothing like getting them hooked when they're young.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing more refreshing and more wholesome than gardening. And turn somebody, whether it's young or old, but in particular the young people, turn them on to gardening, because that's really what it's about.
Yeah, and with little kids, they have to get their hands into the soil one way or another. So at least, maybe through a community garden, or like if you live in an apartment, especially little kids, they're developing their immune systems, and they have to get their hands dirty, and sometimes they'll eat the occasional worm or whatever they'll do. It happens, but it's all part of building that immune system so that they can have
teach them how to eat worms, Ken. That's what we should do. Worm soup.
Yep.
Worm hamburger. We can make hamburger out of worms.
Eat a peck of soil. Yeah. Apparently, that's what was the old rule.
Yeah, I know. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers.
Yeah. And you know how much a peck is?
Well, 3 bushels? I don't know.
I don't know, but they fit nicely in a barrel. That's all I know.
That's right. Okay, we're going to close things down now. We got a couple of minutes left. We're going to do the tips and plants of the week, and we got Shigo coming up, and then we're out of here. So
you betcha.
My tip of the week is, if you're really into it, plant some onion seeds, snapdragons, pansies, and seed geraniums now.
There you go.
If you're not into it, just wait till the greenery opens in April. You're good, okay?
There you go.
Tip of the week is, that was my tip of the week. My plant of the week is the Euphorbia millii, which is the crown of thorns, one of my favorite plants in the greenhouse because it never stops blooming.
Yeah, I think we have a little video about that. So, again, tune in to the Grower Coach on YouTube, and you'll see some videos of Don's greenhouse as well. So check that out. My tip of the week is to learn one botanical plant name every month for the year of 2021, and it'll change your whole outlook on plants. I'm sure it will. Get you started. And I have the 2021 perennial plant of the year as my plant of the week, which is a variety of, it's like a type of Nepeta. It's called Calamintha Nepeta. So there you go. It's a new one. It's a white flowered one. It has a very hint of blue here and there, but it's just a mass of blooms. They actually say it looks like confetti when it flowers, but it flowers all summer, and it's just very low maintenance, easy to grow, dependable. It's a good one. So there you go. Watch for the Calamintha in 2021. That's my tips and plans for this week. Remember to check growercoach.com.
You got her, Ken. Thank you so much for that. And my Shigo quote of the week, of course, Dr. Shigo was the father of modern arboriculture. Ken and I had the privilege of seeing him speak about a year before he passed away, but he's a giant guy. And he wrote a book called Tree Pithy Points, and out of that, I've been getting my Shigo quotes of the week. When they said I could look at their walnut trees, they did not know that I meant on the inside. Oh, there you go. On that note, it's 10 a.m. We're going to take that big, long break till next week. We'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden Show.